the meeting of the Londonderry Town Council for February 3rd, 2011 to order. Please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor O'Keefe, will you please lead us? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our men and women serving us both here and abroad. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, tonight's meeting, the primary focus is the town budget. So what we'll do is first we're going to go to public comment, and this is for public comment outside of the budget itself. Then we're going to go to new business where we have to discuss collective bargaining agreement with IAF Local 3160. Then we'll go into the public hearing for the budget, and we'll open up the public hearing and then go into a discussion warrant by warrant. Okay, so first part of our meeting is public comment. Does anyone from the public have anything they'd like to say? Please, Ms. Karen, come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Pauline Karen, 369 Mammoth Road. I was going to talk about one thing that is in the budget that I don't think you're going to be discussing tonight because it's not in any of the warrant articles.
Okay.
The consolidation of the dispatch centers for the police and the fire, I understand are going to be put on hold and are not going to be going through the FY12 budget. But there was money put aside in the police budget as a placeholder. And seeing that's not going to be done, I think that item should be removed from the police budget. And it's $50,000, and the line item is under machinery and equipment.
Okay. Dave, do you...
Yeah, those funds were reverted back to the fire department budget.
They were reverted back to the
That's
fire
correct.
department budget?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. The second thing I have to say is, when I looked up the agenda of tonight's meeting, there was no draft of the January 17 minutes. It is my understanding that the minutes are supposed to be produced in draft form 5 days after the meeting. They're not even on the town website, and that's one thing I wanted to bring to your attention.
Okay.
So I don't know how you're going to approve those minutes tonight.
We obviously can't approve them because we haven't seen them yet. So, Dave.
Right, they have been reviewed, drafted, and I don't know why they're posted. We'll find out tomorrow morning.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
We do have a meeting on Monday, so we could...
It will be on Monday's
we
agenda.
have a meeting
Correct.
February 7th in a few days, so...
But I was under the impression they had to be posted 5 days after the meeting.
Technically, this is a budget hearing.
They have to be made available to the public 5 days after
They
the meeting.
do, okay.
Which they are.
So if you could follow up with that.
Which they are.
They are, but not on the town website.
Okay.
That's correct.
So we'll get them posted. Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public have anything? Okay, seeing none, I have a few things, and then I'll go and see if any other councilors have anything. First of all, just a reminder about the upcoming town meeting elections. So on Tuesday, March 8th, the polls will be open at the high school gym from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., right? And then town meeting, the second part of town meeting on Saturday, March 12th, the meeting begins at 9 a.m., but the doors should open, what, about 45 minutes before? About 45 minutes before, so you could come in. You'll have to, you're registered, if you're a registered voter, you'll have to sign in, so usually there's a rush, right at 9 o'clock, so get there a little early so you could get in and get a good seat. Okay. And the second thing I wanted to say in public comment was, I think it goes without saying that we've been having a lot of snow lately, all right? Yeah. And just an observation, our Public Works Department's doing the best they can to clear the roads. Snow is piled up high at intersections. Please be careful. Don't, obviously slow down and look both ways, especially on those corners where the snow is piled high. There's, really we're running out of places to put it, so just be safe. Anyone else from the public have anything to say? Anyone from the Budget Committee or the Town Council? Okay. So we'll move on to new business. Our first order of business is a collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters Local 3160. And Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, thank you. This issue is before the council this evening, as the council is recommended the council approve the contract and include it in the 2011 town meeting warrant for voter consideration and funding. The agreement with our firefighters is set to expire on June 30th of 2011. We have reached an agreement, again, before you this evening. IAFF's membership has ratified the agreement on their side. It is a 3-year agreement with cost living adjustments of 0 for next year, 2% on FY13, and 2.5% on FY14. There are a number of provisions in the proposed agreement which are consistent with what our police officers agreed to last year, namely that our step systems have been expanded to accommodate 2.5% between steps. Currently, most of the separation between steps is 5% of the current agreement. However, the mins and max salaries for each grade for FY12 remain unchanged to reflect the 0% COLA. The process by which employees will transition to the new step system is they will be placed on the step on a new scale, which provides an increase in their current salary and then one additional step. As you know, on the current law and on the current agreement, we are required to fund step increases even though a contract may have expired. So funds for that transition is currently available in the FY12 Fire Department budget. Sick leave accrual payout has been reduced to 252 hours for, I believe, 20 years of service. Sick leave accrual is a 2-step process. It will be 700 hours for existing employees, 500 hours for new employees, and the insurance payback will again continue a decreasing scale whereby by FY14 it will be at $2,500 for a family plan. Currently, a 2-person plan is at that level. And the town did include a tuition reimbursement plan for members, which is consistent with the plans we offer to all of our other bargaining units. Again, the cost for FY12 is $5,000, which is a tuition plan. FY13 is $62,325, and FY14 is $78,513. And we're recommending that the council approve the agreement tonight and place it on the 2011 town meeting warrant.
Okay, so Dave, right now, what you're asking us to do is to put it on the warrant, and then if we do that, then when we go through the actual warrant and the budget portion, that's where we'll have the opportunity to...
Well, the council has to approve the agreement for it to be placed on the warrant.
Right.
So this is one of these issues where you can't place it on the warrant and then vote to not recommend. Because if you don't
No, I
recommend, we don't
understand.
have an agreement.
I was thinking more of the budget committee. Would they have an opportunity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Questions from the council? Sean?
Go ahead. Tom was going to start.
I just had a comment, not really a question.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention, I did some quick calculations. Dave read off the figures, and I know that in the past, over the years, the councils have worked closely with the unions and had, we'll say, incremental changes from contract to contract and moving in the right direction. And I wanted to make note that there's some pretty dramatic changes in this contract. And I have to both credit our negotiating team as well as the union for agreeing to these changes. This is like I said, pretty dramatic. For example, the insurance buyout has been reduced in this contract 41%. That's not 5% or 10%, it's 41%. Sick leave accrual upon separation, which has been an issue in the public discussion for a while, is reduced in this contract by 37%. Again, pretty dramatic. And sick leave accruals for existing employees it will be reduced 42% for current employees and 58% for new employees. So I think that this contract will get my strong endorsement at town meeting, and I want to compliment our negotiating team as well as the firefighters who I guess I would characterize it as some pretty generous give-backs and negotiations with the taxpayer. So my compliments all the way around. Good job.
Sean?
Can I say ditto?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to sum it up, Tom's absolutely 100% correct. This is a big change in the way the contracts have been in the past. I think it shows a lot that the employees are trying to work with the town to, understandably adjust their living arrangements more in line with the private sector. And like Tom had mentioned, all these key points of the contract, not just the cost of living adjustments, is they took a freeze for the first year of the contract, which is, I applaud them for doing that. All the way around, I think it's a very good step in the right direction, and I think that they definitely deserve my thanks as a taxpayer and as a counselor, and they'll definitely have my endorsement of this. And I want to thank Dave and the contract negotiating team for getting it done, and it seems like a very good contract.
Thank you, Sean. Mike?
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, in addition to what Tom and Sean said, in particular the cost of living adjustment, to agree to a 0% adjustment for the first year is very significant in light of everything we've been talking about. It's also significant as it relates to other contracts as well. It's a great, it's a great offer on behalf of this unit to the town. But I think it's also important to note that when Tom brings up the reduction in sick leave accrual payout upon separation, this group agreed to do what the police unit similarly did the year before. So this is a continuation of some good negotiating on the part of the police unit the year before. So I applaud the fire unit for agreeing to do what was done previously. That's a very good sign. But we also need to recognize that this started with the police union the year before. Same goes with the sick leave accrual, regular sick leave accrual, and same goes for the insurance buyback, all of which were agreed to by the fire union and which was agreed to previously by the police union. So I think it's important to kind of take note of that and reference the police unit, and also thank the fire department for seeing through to agree to that, in addition to the 0% COLA in the first year. So, and the first thing I did when Dave brought this to us is, within 1 minute, I asked him, what would the approval of this contract as presented affect our goal of a flat tax rate? So Dave, I want you to kind of answer that question, because this is an item that we didn't previously consider. When you presented the budget, you said, please be aware we've got a couple bargaining agreements. So what effect will this have on our goal of delivering a flat tax?
It will not move us off the estimated tax rate of 474. When you look at the estimated tax rates in the town meeting warrant, approximately 34,000 is 1 cent on a tax rate. So, like, the year 2 is 62,000, and it says 2 cents. Well, actually, it's a little bit below 2 cents. So by the time you add up all the variances, we can absorb this $5,000 and maintain a level funded tax rate.
Right. So that's kind of a key point for me as one counselor, that we're able to, up to tonight, we're able to maintain our goal and come to an agreement with this unit. And I think their willingness to go without a cost of living increase for the first year has helped us do that. So it's appreciated, and I will be supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I wish Councilor Farrell was running late tonight. I wish he could be here. But I'm not going to repeat what my fellow councilors said, but I agree with all three of them, and I too will be supporting this. Dave, just couple minor, more typo things. I noticed on page 1, it still had 2008, so it looked like it was left over from the prior agreement.
Yeah,
so
it's been
we need
corrected.
to- And I think on the cover page, there was an incorrect date as well. So just,
Right,
you know, when we do the final version of this, we'll have to.
yeah,
make
we've
sure.
corrected it.
So- But other than that, so Dave, would the next step be for a motion to move this to the town warrant?
That's correct.
Okay. So I
Second,
will,
I'm sorry, so moved?
okay, so I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Counselor Dolan, seconded by Counselor O'Keefe. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and the chair votes affirmative, and it passes 4-0, and show the record that Counselor Farrell is out. Okay, and thank you, Dave. Okay, seeing no further new business before us, I will move on to the public hearing, and I'll need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to open public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of opening the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Chair votes affirmative, so we are now in public hearing, 4-0. Okay. To begin this discussion, Dave, I'd like to ask you if you could go through and maybe talk about some of the things that we discussed previously that kind of got us to this point, and then the process we'll follow is, we'll go through article by article. I'll read the article, and then we'll open it up for discussion from the council, the budget committee, go to the public, and we'll follow that approach through the entire process. So,
A couple things. There are 2 articles submitted by petition, which are identified, I believe, as Articles 11 and 12, which by law, they have to be placed on the ballot. So the council and budget committee's vote is not whether to place them on the ballot or not, but actually to support or not support the appropriation. There are no other changes to the budget. The only changes which were implemented at the last meeting is Article 5, which is the operating budget. As you know, we made a correction to the rec budget by increasing by $8,075. We restored the dispatch services back into the fire department, so there was a significant transfer from the police department to the fire department. During that meeting, I suggested we keep the consolidation of dispatch either internally or reaching out externally on our radar screen as a priority, as we see that there can be some efficiencies gained there. And we continue to do that, but I have nothing new to report on that issue this evening. And as a result of restoring dispatch, and in order to meet the council's directive, we reduced the highway division winter maintenance budget, by $84,818. So when you get to Article 5, the number will be the same as what the council voted on, obviously, at your last meeting, which is $25,727,911. Just from a procedural standpoint, the council did take preliminary votes on a number of the articles. Once you receive public input, you're more than free to adjust your recommendations. However, you're not required to take a revote on those issues you've already voted. That's totally up to the discretion of the town council.
Okay. Great. Okay, with that, I will start with the first article, which is Article 3 for a bond issue for highway reconstruction, to issue $1 million in bonds and use $48,000 in undesignated fund balance for the reconstruction of roads and to pay for bond interest and issuance costs. So this one, a revote is not necessary because we've already voted to put it on from the town council. What about the budget committee?
We've given consideration vote. We have not given our final vote on
So
that.
we'll go to
So-
public comment, and then at the end, we'll
Turn to us for the.
turn to us for your final.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. Okay, questions or comments from the council on Article 3? Okay, Budget Committee, questions or comments on Article 3?
Just that the Budget Committee did in fact discuss this a bit, and given the advantageous rates that are available out there, and given the program that has been presented and the ongoing efforts necessary to maintain the roads, we had a good discussion about this, and we'll soon find out how we supported that. But I, for one, Budget Committee member, strongly support this.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the Budget Committee? Okay, I'll go to the public. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments regarding Article 3, the bond issue for highway reconstruction? Please come forward and state your name and address. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council and the Budget Committee. Okay, so I guess our next step, council, do you wish to re-vote on this?
That would take one of us out of it, it's already 5-0.
Okay, so it's already 5-0.
I prefer not to.
Okay, we'll leave it. Budget Committee, I'll turn it over to you, Don.
Yes, and I would just,
I have 2 gavels, I could give you that.
I assume it appropriate to ask for a motion from the Budget Committee for this, so do I have
Mr.
a...
Chairman, I move that the Budget Committee express its support for Article 3.
I have a motion and a second.
Article 4.
Any discussion?
Oh, it is 3.
It's Article 3, is it not?
Yeah, my bad.
Correct,
I
for
was
Article 3. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Abstaining? The chair votes affirmative, so it's 7-0.
Got that, Morgan? Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next article. Article 4 is the Expendable Maintenance Trust Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to be placed in the town's maintenance trust fund created by the voters at the 2003 town meeting for the purpose of repairing and maintaining town facilities, and to authorize the use of the June 30th fund balance in the amount of $135,000 towards this appropriation. If passed, this article will require the town to raise $65,000 in property tax, resulting in a tax rate impact of $0.02 in the fiscal year 12 based on the projected assessed values. We'll go to the council first. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, and no re-vote from the council is required on this. We've already voted on it. Okay, any questions or comments from the Budget Committee?
The Budget Committee had previously discussed this at some length and had supported it. It's really one of those issues of pay me now, pay me later, and I think that it makes ultimate sense to support it.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else in the Budget Committee? No? Okay, anyone from the public have any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. So the council has already voted to approve this 5-0, and I believe the Budget Committee, do you need to?
We will ask for a vote on that. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Abstaining? Chair votes in affirmative, so the vote is 7-0.
Okay, thank you, Don. Okay, moving on to Article 5. This is the fiscal year 12 town operating budget. And I'm not going to read through all the line items, but the total operating budget for fiscal year 12 is $25,727,911. If passed, this article will require the town to raise $14,865,911 in property taxes, resulting in a tax rate impact of $4.48 in fiscal year 12 based upon projected assessed values. Questions or comments from the council? Council Brown.
It's more of a question for Dave and a clarification in case there's any confusion out there about the town's tax rate versus the tax bill. Dave, it was reported earlier this week that the Rockingham County budget is going up approximately 5%. So again, I wanted to know whether that had any impact on the council's goal of a flat tax rate, and you responded with no, because that's a separate portion of the total town tax rate and the tax bill. If you can kind of just walk us through that, just so that we
Sure.
understand that
Sure.
tax bills are going to go up, and the county's got a role in that, but it's not related to this operating
Right.
budget.
Right. The tax bill is comprised of 4 major areas. First is the town portion, which the council is responsible for, and whatever town meeting votes. The second is the largest part of our tax bill is the school district budget, which the school board is responsible for, and again, the voters approve or disapprove various articles. The third segment is the state education tax, which is established by the state legislature and the state of education. And the fourth component is a county tax bill, which pays for county services and is approved by our county delegation, which is all the state representatives and senators in the county. And so your direct responsibility is to present the town portion of the tax rate for approval.
So the net result is that if we're hit with an increase of 5% from the county, taxpayers can expect that a portion of their total tax rate's going to go up, and their tax bill will go up because of that,
Yeah,
irrespective of what we're doing here.
and it's important to note that although the county is looking at a 5% increase, which is about 4.5 cents on the rate for Londonderry, currently, if it was distributed evenly, what I mean by that is that
Yeah.
the state every year looks at all the assessed valuations of all the communities in the county, and if ours went up, we have a greater proportionate share. If ours went down compared to other communities, we have a lower proportionate share, and so we don't get to find that out until we set the tax rate. But it should be about a 5% increase, which is about 4.5. Right now, the tax rate for the county is 94 cents, so it's about 4.5 cents.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make sure that that got out there.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, Budget Committee, any questions or comments from the Budget Committee? Mark? Mr. Oswald?
There's a couple places this evening. Sure. There's a couple places this evening in the agenda, Mr. Chairman, that we could address this. There's a citizen petition warrant article, there's the budget, and then there's the ratification, council's ratification or recommendation for firefighter local 3160 contract, which you've just had a consensus in approving. I would call to your attention the proposed contractual agreement agreed by the union and the council, page 7 and 8, articles 15 regarding clothing and protective gear. The contract that appears to be in consensus going to the voters in March would require the town to provide protective gear for the firefighters. There's a $20,000 issue before us with the budget because that was an earmark to be removed or reduced.
Okay, so I'm not sure what you're asking me.
It's a bottom line budget, but we need to have an accounting for the 20,000. If contractually we're going to be obligated to protect these men and women, then why are we suggesting a $20,000 reduction in the budget?
Yeah, I guess Mark was referring to is the article which is submitted by petition.
Well, I am. I'm really referring to the proposed budget that the council and the budget committee is in the throes of approving and forwarding to the voters. And one of the proposed reductions to get to this flat rate was $20,000 for protective gear.
Mm-hmm.
It's related to the citizen petition, but, you know.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why did you wait till tonight to bring this up? Not at the beginning of the process?
That's incorrect. I brought it up twice before in public sessions.
I don't really remember that, but
Okay,
That's news to me.
well, let's try to get an answer for.
Well, if I can jump ahead then to Article 11, which the chief reports that currently the department has 52 units of protective clothing, which includes coat, pants, boots, helmet, hood, gloves, suspenders, SCBA mask, and regulator. The cost to outfit each firefighter is $300 at the present. The service life is 8 years, normal usage barring any damage. It is inspected each year by manufacturer's standards. For the last 3 years, the department has been replacing 6 to 7 sets that have reached the age limit and at least 4 that were replaced for not meeting standards around a 5-year span. The plan has been in place to be able to cycle all units over an 8-year period. The budget line which we're speaking about is safety program funds, which were funded in the current budget at $40,000. $20,000 of that's for the replacement of the personal protective equipment, which I think Mark's talking about this evening. And the other $20,000 was for all other safety equipment and within the department. Next year, which is FY12, the chief reduced the line item by $20,000 for replacement clothing, thinking might be able to get by with 1 year since some of the newer firefighters are in a different cycle. However, it does put a greater burden on years to come to catch up if funding is not restored.
So in essence, we really are shorting that line item, and it's just gonna come back and get us later?
Well, I mean, it's like the CIP, where we've gone through for the last 3 or 4 years in replacing equipment, is that, we've got to try to make sure, try to stretch the use of equipment and clothing for another year until we get through this economic downturn.
So in essence, none of the firefighters that we have right now are in the cycle to be replaced during that budget year.
No, what the chief is saying is that he's not going to replace any clothing this year and put it in for the FY13 budget.
I get that, but what I'm
Right.
saying is, nobody's gonna be put at risk by the equipment that they're wearing or using.
Oh, I don't believe so, but I'll have to defer to the chief on that.
Chief, can we get the?
Again, when we looked at the cycle, because some people came on, some people left, and we're trying to keep the cycle to the 8-year retirement cycle for it. We try and keep, at year 5, we look at it and try and see if it'll stretch it to year 8, depending on what we do. So we've been buying enough to keep it at a stable environment. We looked at it this year and looked at the cycle as not as many. We were just planning on doing the usual 6 to 7 to keep the 8-year cycle going. This will affect year 7, basically, by not doing it here. You may have to increase by 10 sets instead of 6 come that year cycle. We're probably going to replace 1 or 2 sets simply because there may be when we go and look at it and find somebody may need a new set, we will replace those ones that definitely need to go. Either they're reaching the 8-year cycle this year, which it doesn't appear that they are, but again, when we do our manufacturer's check, we found a couple last year. It seems to be that, every once in a while you find a couple, so we'll replace those, but basically out of the other $20,000 that we keep for safety equipment.
So you guys have some training exercises coming up soon. I
Yep.
believe April is what I heard from Captain Rogers.
That's correct.
So where they're going to be on scene and in a real fire environment, what happens if something's not right as far as the equipment goes? Do you guys have money within the budget to replace stuff that fails in field?
We do. That's part of that 20,000 that's left over. If we need to replace some piece of equipment that fails during the period of the year, that's where we go from. The $20,000 we were using as a regular cycle replacement, kind of like our little CIP for that particular item. Because when you multiply times 52 sets times nearly $4,000, it adds up to, if we had to buy it all at one time, you're in the $250,000 range.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dave, question for you. Mark brought up that if we approve the contract that we discussed earlier, there's a requirement that we fund a certain level of safety equipment. So my question is that, I'm assuming we're going to honor that part of the contract and we would fund that.
There's a requirement in the contract, which is a continuation of previous contracts, to outfit each firefighter with a certain amount of clothing, and we will not step back from that commitment. It's a contractual obligation. We'll continue to meet that contractual obligation.
Yeah, I think it's important to establish that if we agree to a contractual obligation and it requires outfitting firefighters, we will do that. We have to, so, okay.
Correct.
Thanks.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mark, thanks for bringing it up, and I'm sorry for getting on you. I thought it was discussed and in the contract, so thank you.
Any other members of the Budget Committee have any questions or comments regarding the Article 5, which is the fiscal year 12 operating budget?
Just one point of clarification, the numbers we're looking at, does that include the reversion back to the fire department?
For dispatch services?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay, I will go to the public. Any members of the public have any questions regarding the fiscal year 12 town operating budget? Please come up, state your name. Sir. You can just state your name and address.
Yep, Ken Gaduti, 26 South Road. Just had one question with regards to, looking through, it looks like most of the numbers go down in a lot of the budgets, but there was one with the building department. It was going up by almost 100 and, I wouldn't want to say 30 or 40,000. I was just wondering what's going on that budget needs to go up that much.
Okay. Actually, that's a good question. Dave?
Okay.
Yeah, the budget includes a transfer of an inspection position from the fire department to the building department. So
Say that, I didn't understand. Say that one more time.
there's an inspection position,
Okay.
which is proposed to be moved from the fire department to the building department. So the fire department budget went down a little bit, and the building department budget went up as a result of that.
Okay, so are they relieving a position at the fire department? Is that what they're looking to do?
Yeah, currently there are two, there's a fire marshal and fire inspector, and currently the proposal is to eliminate the fire marshal and to move the fire inspector to the building department.
Okay, so then the building department that would be either Richard or John, the two current building, is that the building department, or is the building department larger than just the?
The building inspection team now is Richard and John.
And John?
And there'll be a third person in there.
So they would take over the fire marshal job, is that what you're?
The
or-
fire inspector responsibility will be transferred into that department with that third person.
Oh, they're bringing a third person into the,
They're transferring a position from the fire department to the building department.
okay.
Name and address?
Brian Johnson, 10 Loop Road. Also, excuse me, the fire marshal for Londonderry. Spoke to you guys before. Ken brought up a good point about the money going over to the building department. I guess my other question is, who is going to do the fire marshal duties? Excuse me, once the position's eliminated?
The chief and I are continuing to discuss the allocation of duties under the new structure. We had a discussion about that today, and it hasn't been finalized.
Okay, I know the chief had said, leaving positions, we had already eliminated one position. I'm presently doing 2 jobs for the price of 1. And, I know the town wanted consolidation. I think the chief did a good job of doing that. Just trying to figure out, he has come up with, or he has said that he will come up with the same dollar amount that the savings would get by moving the position to the building department without reducing services. Is there a reason that's not being looked at?
Well, again, like I just said, is that the chief and I are reviewing different allocation of duties. And
Okay.
we've had discussions, ongoing discussions, including those we had today.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
Ken Gadudy again, 26 South Road. Kind of want to mirror what Brian said. Guess I'm trying to figure out why would we create another position and train somebody new. I mean, I've had Brian when I've done additions and whatnot. He's the guy who comes out, checks the tank, make sure that the propane lines are correct at the correct depth, and you got your yellow safety thing over 12, I forget what the number is, 12 inches of sand or whatever, but is that going to then be put onto the building department? I mean, if we've already got somebody trained, why would we pay to retrain somebody? I guess it's just, why would we make a new position when we already have somebody that's qualified? Brian's got the time, or, already done his homework, if you will.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
We are transferring a position from the fire department to the building department.
I
I'm
understand.
presuming that's going to be Brian,
Okay,
okay? So any inspection duties, what we're going to also do is take a look, because we do have some duplication of efforts between our building services and our fire inspector. And we're going to try to work more closely together and eliminate those. So we're not going to be retraining any new people. We'll be training existing people for some new duties to make sure, for an example, that if there are some areas in which the building inspector can inspect issues which were previously done by the fire inspector, we'll have to send 1 person out instead of 2. So we're looking at all those issues currently.
okay, I would just ask that you make sure that the person that you do send out is fully qualified and for what you're sending them out to do. And that way they
Absolutely.
don't waste taxpayers' time or energy.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the public? bring it back to the council. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, and I asked this before, but I just want to make sure, Dave, that the general assistance line, which I'm assuming includes the social serve for nonprofits funding that we talked about, we directed you to restore that 12,000 something back in there. That's in there, right?
That's correct. A major recipient of social service funding did not reapply this year, so that makes up a majority of that reduction in that line.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, you know, the budget committee's aware that that's back in where
That's correct.
you had requested. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So Dave, the council's already voted on this, so we don't need to
That's
take
correct.
a vote. Does the budget committee need to?
Yes.
I move the Budget Committee support this article as presented.
Second?
I'll second that.
Discussion, Mark?
I'd made a request previously, and this may have been a budget session, the council was not present, but it was done in public. If we've gone back and revisited any agreement to a furlough, a concession, or a wage freeze from the bargaining units in town. I know that was done initially. I think the estimate was 500,000 in savings.
Right.
Where are we with that?
None of the, we received an initial response back from all the collective bargaining units,
Right?
and we have not received any other change in positions from any of those units from their original positions.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Just a point of order, Mr. Chairman, I think the motion should be to take it to a vote rather than to take a particular position on the motion. I think the motion was to support the article rather than motion to vote on the article. Just can be confusing on the record.
Okay, thank you.
And I can make that motion. I know there's one on the table, but
Yeah, should we amend the motion to the new words? Would
I
that
accept
seem
the
appropriate?
amendment.
Who was your second?
And we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of supporting Article 5, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining? The chair votes in affirmative, that passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Article 6, this is capital reserve funds. The article is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum set forth below to be placed in capital reserve funds already established, and to authorize the use of the June 30th fund balance in the amount of $150,000 towards this appropriation. Ambulances, $60,000, highway trucks, $80,000, highway heavy equipment, $40,000, fire trucks, $145,000, for a total of $325,000. If passed, this article will require the town to raise $200,000 in property taxes, resulting in a tax rate impact of 0.6 cents in fiscal year 12 based upon projected assessed values. Discussion from the council?
I think, stating the obvious, it's, I think, as Dawn had mentioned, pay me now, pay me later, I think this is, this just makes sense to keep budgeting this. So I recommend that we go forward with it.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, Budget Committee?
The only question,
John?
sorry, the question I had, Dave, this, so the taxpayers know that amount is already designated for certain pieces of equipment. It's not that it's put in an account in case we need it. These are things that we need within the next budget cycle and will be expended to replace heavy equipment.
Yeah, I don't know for the next budget cycle, but for an example, a pumper will cost us upwards of $400,000, but both the Public Works and Fire Departments have schedules out at least 8 years as to what they plan to replace for equipment.
And that was my concern when we discussed it at Budget Committee meeting, was that we've targeted things that we're going to purchase with these things, like saving for your family car, as opposed to having it there and making the decision later. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the Budget Committee? Okay, I will go to the public. Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments regarding Article 6, the capital reserve funds? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. The council has already voted on this to approve it 5-0. Tom?
Quick question, Dave. On the warrant as printed, will it include the notes below about the 5-year trend to move it out of UFB back to taxation?
The warrant won't, but that's the information we put on the overhead at town
My
meeting.
question whether it would be on the warrant, I think.
So, council, we don't need to take a revote on this. Turn it over to the budget committee.
Yes, and I call for a motion to support this.
Second.
And seconded by, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining? Chair votes in affirmative, it passes 7-0.
Thank you, Don. Moving on to Article 7. This is the master plan funding. The article reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 for the future updating of the town master plan, to authorize the use of the June 30th fund balance for this purpose, and to place said funds in the non-capital reserve fund established for this purpose under Article 14 at the 2008 town meeting. If passed, this article will require the town to raise 0 in property taxes, resulting in a tax rate impact of 0. So, questions from the council on this? Okay, questions from the budget committee?
None.
All set? Okay. I will go to the public. Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments on Article 7?
Pauline Karen, 369 Mammoth Road. I have a question. When did the master plan go into effect? What year?
I believe it was 2004. 2004. The current master plan.
Okay, now, I also understand that the $50,000 for this master plan update will be coming out of the undesignated fund balance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Andre said that if we do update the master plan, it will not be done for another 10 years. Why can't we hold off one more year, seeing it's not 10 years since the master plan was done? And since the master plan was done, we have also had a Northwest Small Area Plan that was adopted on September 9, '09. The master plan does not apply to the Woodmont Orchards property because they will establish a master plan under the PUD that was passed last January.
Okay.
These are
I
things to
believe-
think of.
Okay. I'll have Dave correct me if I'm, should we go to Andre? Andre, do you want to come up? I believe the undesignated fund balance can only be used for one-time projects. Is that right, Dave?
Well, it's not a legal restriction, but it's a good operational practice.
I'll go to Tom, and then I'll go to...
I believe, Andre, you can correct me, that the original master plan in '04 was a 7-year plan, and to redo it in 2012 will already stretch it an extra year to be an 8-year plan. So I think that's, and correct me if I'm wrong.
2000, Andre Guerin, Community Development Director. You're correct. The 2004 plan was a strategic plan, with just looking at particular areas, encompassing, obviously, the initiative started by the Best Towns process, and then finalizing with the strategic points of where we wanted to emphasize, such as the Town Center project and other various projects, but it wasn't a comprehensive plan like we're proposing for this one to be.
I was looking for the master plan on the town website, and I couldn't find it. Could you tell me where it is?
Yes, if you were to go under their community development department.
I did.
Community planning, all the community planning documents are in there. They're the small area master plan, the 1997 master plan, and the 2004 master plan are all there.
Okay. I have another question. Doesn't anyone in your department have the expertise to do this without having to pay it out to a third party?
It's not so much the expertise, it's just a lot of time and effort to undertake a master plan internally. Haven't done that before. It's just that if you're able to absolve yourself from any of the day-to-day stuff that we're responsible for, I think that can be undertaken. But since we cannot, we need somebody, we want to hire somebody that can dedicate full time to not only making sure that the process keeps moving forward, but to write it and do all the editorials that are resulting from the public input that we'll receive throughout the process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public regarding Article 7, master plan funding? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. The council has already voted on this. Councilor Brown?
Yeah, just to kind of follow up to Ms. Karen's question, Dave, if you recall early on, I raised the question of, geez, can we not use the 50,000, and would it help us meet our flat tax rate goal? And you kind of educated me as to this being money from the undesignated fund balance. I think it's kind of wise to say, if we didn't spend this 50,000, is there a tax rate impact, or is it just raise the undesignated fund balance back up by 50,000?
You're right, the fund balance will be $50,000 higher for the next fiscal year.
Right, because I originally was looking to use this money to help us meet our goal, mistakenly so, because it's from the undesignated fund balance.
Yeah, I recall, like, very early in the budget process, that was one of the first things I think we all zeroed in on.
Yeah.
And we were corrected as to, whether that was something that would be. Tom?
And just for information, I just pulled up the 2004 master plan from the website, so I did find it, so I can help you find it if you have to.
I was looking for it this afternoon, I couldn't find it.
The 1997 plan is there too, because that was done 7 years prior.
I don't even think we had the internet back then, but.
We did. That was
95.
Al Gore
invented it back then.
No, we didn't.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the council regarding Article 7? So we don't need to take a revote, so I will turn it over to the Budget Committee.
Budget Committee, do I have a motion to support this article?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Chair votes in affirmative, it is 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Article 8. Article 8 is special revenue funds, and we have three. The Sewer Division Fund is $4,579,758. The Cable Franchise Fee Fund is $366,657. And the Police Outside Detail Fund is $465,315, for a total of $5,411,730. These services are funded through user fees and require no property tax support. Questions from the council? Sean?
Dave, so the cable franchise fee fund, that's the number that we're allocating, and the position that we are gonna keep is gonna come out of that.
That's correct.
Okay.
It includes funding for 3 full-time positions as we currently operate.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Other questions from the council? Questions from the Budget Committee? No? Okay, questions from the public regarding Article 8, the special revenue funds? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Any final questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, we do not have to re-vote on this because we've already voted our support of it, so I'll turn it over to the Budget Committee.
And to the Budget Committee, if I can ask for a motion for support.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by- Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Chair votes in affirmative, it is 7-0.
Thank you. Moving on to Article 9, this is the proposed collective bargaining agreement with IAFF 3160, the fire employees. The council has reached an agreement with the IAF 3160 with an impact of $5,000 and a tax rate of $0.002, which is 0.2 cents. And the council did obviously vote earlier this evening to move this to the warrant, so it is on the warrant. So Dave, we've already voted our support. So we don't need to re-vote on this, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to take a vote of our support. We voted to move it.
Right.
We didn't vote our support.
Okay, so we will do that, and then at the end. The only thing is if Councilor Farrell doesn't show up, I might suggest that if we have an opportunity at a future meeting to re-vote, so we'll give him an opportunity to put his support to that as well.
We've done that in the past, right, Dave?
You have.
Okay.
Just as long as we do it prior to going to print, right?
Well, we're going to print on Tuesday, so
So
Monday
that would be
evening.
like Monday we did
Right.
do it, okay. Any questions from the council?
Just a clarification, David. Up above, it says IAFF Local 3160, and then in parentheses down below, it says AFSME. Is that a typo, or is that?
That is a typo,
Okay.
thanks.
All right, thanks.
Is there a motion to,
Well, let me go to the public. We'll see if the budget committee has any comments, and we'll go to the public, then come back and do our votes.
Okay.
Yeah, budget committee, questions or comments?
I actually have just a couple, and I'm building on what Sean and others have said tonight. I really think it's appropriate to say that kudos go to the entire negotiating team for what they did on both sides, and certainly also to the rank and file for supporting it. Which really gives us a situation where we can pretty well maintain our flat tax, which I think is important, and also reflects, I think, an understanding, a consideration of the times that we're in. So thanks to all those that did that. And as one person on the budget committee, it certainly has my support.
Any other comments or questions from the budget committee? Hi.
My only comment is reviewing the 37 pages of the document, I'll just reiterate basically what everybody else has been saying to date. It looks like a very reasonable agreement. People really came to the table, and I, for one budget committee member, would strongly support this agreement at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the budget committee? Okay, I will go to the public. Anyone from the public have any comments on Article 9, the proposed collective bargaining agreement with IAFF 3160? Please.
Pauline Karen, 369 Mammoth Road. Does this contract come under the Evergreen Act?
Yes, it does. All of Londonderry's contracts are written to continue all benefits and steps. However, COLAs do not continue under an expired contract.
You're probably aware that the legislature is trying to repeal the Evergreen Act. Should that be in the contract, that if the Evergreen Act is repealed, that the rest of the contract will not have the Evergreen Act?
That would not be my recommendation. Our contracts at all of our unions for decades have included provision for the continuation of all benefits with the exception of cost living agreements, cost living increases, and that essentially is the Evergreen legislation. So the Evergreen legislation was enacted after our contracts were written, and it's supposed to be repealed again after our contracts are written. So the Evergreen provisions really had no impact upon the collective bargaining agreements in the town of Londonderry.
I have another comment to make. It might be a flat tax rate with this contract for this year, but it will not be a flat tax rate for the next 2 years, because there's no COLA this year, but there will be next year and the year after. And with the COLAs for the second and third year of the contract, the raises will be over 4%. Most of the general public is lucky to get a raise if they get one at all. And the firefighters will be getting raises higher than the people they're protecting. Another thing I have to say is that I think it was mentioned at some council meeting further back that the municipal workers should pay more towards their insurance. Right now, they're paying 25%. Shouldn't that percentage be increased so that they pay more of their own insurance? They pay 20%.
They pay 20%, that's correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. But it should probably be increased to at least 25%. And then, there's a longevity clause. When people usually work at jobs for a long time, when they retire, they get a watch or a clock. They don't get a raise. And these are questions that I have. I'm a taxpayer. There are a lot of taxpayers in the town. And I think these are legitimate questions that should be raised. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the public regarding Article 9?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Comment, there was a comment made about 4.5%. I believe it was 2% in the first year and 2.5% in the second year. And I just want people to be clear that it was not a one-time 4.5% increase. It was a 2 and then a 2.5. I just want to make sure that there was no misunderstanding.
Ms. Karen, did you have a...
What I meant was with the COLA plus the other, it's 4 and 4.5%, because the COLAs are 2 and 2.5%.
For the two combined.
The two combined.
Yeah.
And they're 2 raises. Some people are lucky if they get 1.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the council?
Just a clarification, Dave, Ms. Karen asked about the evergreen. I want to ask about the 125 rule. I believe that's what you call it. Kind of explain whether we're facing that with this contract or any other contract.
Yeah, currently, no. The 125 rule is what's referred to with the retirement systems, that if your retirement buyout, your retirement earnings are 125% higher than what they would have been if they just calculated your normal wages, they would actuarially calculate that and send the towns a bill. And that was a bill that was passed, I believe, 2 years ago. And each of the last 2 years, the legislature has delayed the implementation of that till after the beginning of this contract. So this contract would not be subject to the 125 rule. It's our understanding that the 125 law will be not only deferred but repealed this year, but no action's been taken on that as of yet.
Right. But we're not looking at that impact for this.
That's correct, we are not.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay. So what I'm looking for, if there's no further comments from the Budget Committee or the council, I'm looking for a motion from the council to support Article 9.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Discussion?
Okay, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be a little repetitive for the sake of the media, because I think it's important that while our TV ratings, I'm sure, will approach Super Bowl levels, it's important to get the message out to the public, because they're going to vote on this at the upcoming town meeting. And I wanted to mention some of the highlights that I found favorable and worth supporting. A freeze of the cost of living in the first year. Insurance buyout over the life of the contract will be reduced 41%. Sick leave accrual on payout at retirement is reduced 37%. Sick leave accruals for continuing employees will be reduced 42% and reduced 58% for new hires, which makes it consistent with the police, as Councilor Brown pointed out earlier. So I'm very pleased with the movement. and really appreciate the firefighters coming to the table with the taxpayers in mind this year.
Thank you, Tom. Sean?
And to kind of tag team off what Tom's saying, I think over the years, since I was on the Budget Committee and for my first year in the council into my second, I've always been asking town employees to work with us. And it has started with the police last year, and it's going in the right direction. A lot of these folks live in town, and they realize, the outcry from the residents and from, Paynes like me, and they're hearing what we're saying, and I think this is a great thing. They've gave back a lot in this contract. I have, and I understand what Pauline's saying. I do get that. An increase is an increase. However, in the contracts passed, these guys are giving back a lot more, and I think a 4% in 2 years, to me, I think that's a fair increase, especially when you're going without one this year, or in FY12. So, I'd like to reiterate that this is a good contract for the residents and for the employees, and I appreciate the hard work that went into it.
Councilor Brown, did you have any comments?
No, I'm all set.
Councilor Farrell?
I was late and didn't hear anything, so I'll yield.
My final comments on it, just, it's called a collective bargaining agreement, so there was a lot of give and take. And we didn't get everything we wanted, and the union didn't get everything they wanted, but we reached an agreement, and that's the important thing. And I commend both the union officials as well as our town negotiating staff on a job well done. So, with that, there's no further discussion. We have a motion and a second. I will go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of supporting Article 9, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and the chair votes affirmative. Passes 5-0. Okay, and I will now yield to the chairman of the Budget Committee for similar.
Yes.
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Right on. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions? And the chair votes in the affirmative, 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our next article, it is Article 10, and this is something that typically comes in after every collective bargaining agreement that goes before town meeting. It's an authorization for a special meeting on cost items. The voters will be requested to authorize the calling of a special meeting should Article 9 be defeated. Article 9 was the collective bargaining agreement we just discussed. So I will...
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to move Article 10 to the warrant.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of moving Article 10 to the warrant signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and the chair votes affirmative, and Article 10 is moved. Okay, so that is now on the warrant. And discussion on Article 10? Okay.
Paul, just real quick. So Dave, if should this not pass on the floor of town meeting, this authorizes us to have a special meeting
Yeah,
at some date subsequent to town meeting?
Yeah, it avoids the expense of having to petition Superior Court for permission to hold a meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the town council? Questions from the Budget Committee? Seeing none. Any questions from the public on Article 10? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. So now what I'm looking for is a vote to support Article 10.
I can make a motion that we support Article 10.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? And the chair votes affirmative. Passes 5-0. And I will now yield to the chairman of the Budget Committee.
Yeah, just clarification to the town manager. It was my understanding that this did not have a direct fiduciary responsibility, therefore did not require the Budget Committee to respond to it. Is that incorrect?
It's optional for the Budget Committee.
What would be the direction of the town council?
If you wanted to take a vote of support, that would be fine.
Okay. Do we have a motion to support that?
I so move.
Okay. Mark, second by Do we have a second?
Second.
By Todd. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. 7.
Okay. Thank you. We'll now move on to Article 11. These next two articles are citizen petitions, so they are automatically placed on the warrant. There's no vote to put them on the warrant because they are already there. So we will I'll go ahead and read them, and then both the council and the budget committee will need to, of course, we'll take public comment, and the council and the budget committee will need to vote on whether to support it or not. So Article 11, this is fire rescue personal protective clothing. By citizens petition, shall the voters of the town of Londonderry vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to fund the replacement of personal protective clothing for members of the Londonderry Fire Rescue. If approved, the cost of running the program will become part of the annual operating budget in subsequent years. If passed, this article will require the town to raise $20,000 in property taxes, resulting in a tax rate increase of 0.1 cents in fiscal year 12 based upon projected assessed values. Okay. Questions or comments from the council? Tom?
Dave, in the past, we've had instances where citizens' petitions have been brought forth and have not been worded correctly, such that if they were voted at town, put before the voters and voted in favor, that they could not be successfully enacted legally because of the wording. Do you have confidence that this and the next two articles are worded in such a way that they're legally robust and can be enforced?
Both of these were reviewed and approved by town council with the notation that the second sentence is advisory only regarding part of the annual budget in subsequent years. Bart has given us an opinion that unless it's like a collective bargaining agreement, one year's town meeting cannot bind the next year's town meeting. So that second sentence is purely advisory.
Is that something we can ask the moderator at the at town meeting to advise the voters at town meeting about the advisory comment?
That would be a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the council?
Dave, can you remind me what was driving this? We pulled this money out, didn't we?
Actually, that line item has $40,000 in it. It's been reduced to 20, and the portion which has been taken out is take a 1-year sabbatical and replacing that protective clothing.
So this is to restore that?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other counselor? Mike?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, what I heard the chief say when he came up earlier, and Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the $20,000 that's remaining can be used for this type of purchase if we need it.
For emergency repairs and
Right.
replacements, that's correct.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that it's not as if there's no money for this if it's needed. The chief's forecasting that we should be fine for FY12, but he gave testimony to us that should we have to use some money, that $20,000 that's in this line is there and can be used for that type of equipment.
Sure. Just tagging off of what Mike said and Tom, you know, this article, Mark, when he brought this up earlier, it made sense. I understand now why you did it, but there is money there. We're taking a 1-year sabbatical, and that means we'll probably have to increase it the year after or just refund it to its original number of the $40,000. So, but hearing from the chief, we have the money in there to cover it, so I think we're fine with it.
Any other questions or comments from the council? I see none. I'll go to the budget committee. Do you have any questions or comments?
David, question on the contract, if it's approved by the taxpayers, that amount in there for gear, for safety equipment, is that redundant to what we're talking about here?
No, there's no monetary amount in the contract for replacement gear. There's a provision in the contract that requires us to provide each unit member with a certain level of gear.
Initial gear, as
That's
opposed
correct.
to
And
replacement
make sure
gear.
that the current gear meets standards.
All right, thank you.
States here that there's 52 units of protective clothing. Are there spare units set aside?
No.
No.
Well, I can't say that.
Blackberries.
There are, each firefighter has 2 units of clothing. One that's on the end of the life cycle that they hold if the one unit gets dirty and from a fire, and they have a replacement one that they can hold for a short period of time. It's not entitled to be their primary unit.
Okay.
So that there is more than, these are the 52 of the primary units, the ones that are currently in standard. The second set that they have is getting close to the end of the lifespan.
Okay, so there's a quick backup.
There's a quick backup in case, but it's not made to be their primary gear. So what they're referring to in the contract is if a piece of primary gear gets damaged or destroyed, that we'll replace it at that particular time. What we've been doing is trying to keep ahead of that scale so that we always have that amount of equipment available to them. There's not just a spare set to pick off to replace their primary gear.
Okay, how about with the on-call firefighters? With that being
that's the
disbanded?
inclusion. What's that?
With that being disbanded?
Each set of gear is personally custom fitted to everybody.
Okay.
So, other than the SCBA mask and regulator, which is kind of a standard, but size and shape. Sometimes you can swap them off with other people. We do that on occasion when there's one piece, a coat can be, temporarily put over that may be what we consider spare if somebody leaves or retires.
What's going to happen with that equipment that, with the
We'll keep it in stock, like I said, in case somebody's
You find
gear.
somebody to fit it?
It's find somebody that fits. I mean, it's made to be custom fitted for a purpose, for safety, but in a pinch, you can use a piece to get you by while we replace it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, from what I've heard,
Just in case.
from what
Save
I've,
your trip.
from what I've heard, there is some level of redundancy. There is the ability to replace that which needs to be replaced. That is built into the budget as it stands right now. So I would feel comfortable that the budget includes the requirements for this particular area for this year.
Thank you, Tim. Lisa? Mark?
Maybe it's just me. I just want to get some clarification. What I think I'm hearing stated is that there are no firefighters in Londonderry. They're going to have protective gear that exceeds the 8 years. Is that correct?
Currently, right now, there isn't, and if somebody is getting to the 8-year, we will replace it.
Okay. The other thing I was remiss, Mr. Chairman, the information I passed out to council members and budget committee and town managers from the National Fire Protection Association and from FEMA, for the record. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, just one question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Chief, so let's say something happens, anything can happen, and a bunch of the gear is damaged and costs more than $20,000.
We'll take it from some other part of the budget that we
No
have.
one's going out with bad gear,
Safety
under
is-
any circumstances.
Safety is our primary purpose, to keep our employees safe. We'll spend what we have to spend, whatever it is within the budget to do it.
Or you'll come here and ask for more money.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not that we're going to deny anybody anything if safety will be paramount.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I will go to the public. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments regarding Article 11?
Chris Melcher, 4 Bancroft Road. Just a clarification from the town manager. If the voters do pass these, since we have a bottom line budget, do you still, at your discretion, spend that money how you want, or does it have to be spent legally of what these warrants?
If the money is to be expended, it has to be expended for that particular purpose under a special warrant article.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. So, what we're looking for, so the article is written in a certain way, so it'll be, does the council support the article as written? So the motion should,
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that the council support Article 11.
okay?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of supporting Article 11 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? And the chair votes negative, so it is 1, 4, 0. Got that? Okay. Okay. So I will now turn over to the Budget Committee.
And to the Budget Committee, do I have a motion to support this article?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Abstaining? The chair votes in the negative, so it is 1, 6, 0.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Our next article, this one as well was a citizen petition, is Article number 12, Call Firefighter Program by petition. Shall the voters of the town of Londonderry vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to fund the salary and benefits and other program needs for the Call Firefighter Program? If approved, the cost of running the program will become part of the annual operating budget in subsequent years. If passed, this article will require the town to raise $20,000 in property taxes, resulting in a tax increase of 1 cent in fiscal year 12 based upon projected assessed values. Okay, I will go to the council for any comments or questions. Tom?
It's in our notes, and it's our understanding that should this fail by the voters, the town meeting, and the call firefighters resort to a volunteer force, then they will still be covered for workers' comp and for insurance liability purposes.
Yeah, I just, there was a statement made, and I think it was just kind of a statement that we were disbanding the call firefighter department. Although that may seem that way, what we're actually doing is removing the funding. The call firefighters, as Tom said, they could choose to continue on and serve in that capacity as a volunteer, and they would receive the insurance coverage that other volunteers like the alert team receives, so that they don't have to worry about workers' compensation and liability for volunteering. So I think it's just kind of important to establish that it's the removal of funding versus the disbanding. The moving forward becomes a choice on the part of the members if they should choose to do so. And I wanted to make sure that Dave checked into that, and he did, that there's nothing in New Hampshire law that restricts this force from continuing on as a volunteer force, which is good to hear. And they would be covered, which is good to hear. And the fact is that several communities actually have that. So individually, I'm kind of hoping that takes place, you know, should this article not pass. So that's what I have for now, just to kind of level set.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, I'll go to the Budget Committee. I'll start with Mark and go this way.
Thank you. Have we run the numbers to determine what the increased cost in overtime for firefighters will be as a result of asking for volunteers or disbanding call firefighters, or however we want to politically swing it?
Okay. I don't know.
We've got, I think, 17 call firefighters.
I think it's
Chief
7.
is coming up.
I thought it was 7.
Chief, how many call firefighters do we have?
We have 9 on the roster, 7 7 are active, and one of them is away at school at the present time.
So Mr. Oswald's question was, do we have any idea what the impact would be to overtime on the fire department?
At this point, they're a supplemental group that helps us out and certainly has benefit to the department by being able to fill in and cover when there's an active participation from them, but it's on their time and when they're available. It's hard to estimate what overtime would increase or not increase. When we have a major event and they come in, it certainly, if there's more than enough there, then we're not required to call in any more than necessary. So it's kind of hard to say. On the average, at best, it might be around $5,000 difference having them there or not at that point.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Chief, with all due respect,
Yeah.
sounds like you don't know.
That was the estimate, given a number of, we did an analysis with the number of hours.
Well, they do $17,000. You're saying overtime will only go up $5,000 if they don't come in.
That's an
So
estimate.
we're going to save $12,000 because they're not coming in. That's what you're saying.
Pretty much.
But you don't have hard numbers to back that up.
Did it on the basis of the analysis of how many hours they put in last year based on time and saying that a percentage of the calls that were necessary, yes.
Okay, so we're going to save $12,000 is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Todd? Lisa?
Just one quick question, Chief. The call firefighters, they don't, when they supplement, they don't actually fill in for one of your full-time firefighters when they're on vacation or out sick, correct?
No,
It's just during active?
Just at an active scene. In other words, they're called in, when we call in extra people, they get the same call as the full-timers do. They come in, get an X number of people there. They don't fill in regular shifts or any, they're a supplemental.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. John, did you have any? No? Okay. I will go to the public. Any members of the public have any questions or comments regarding Article 12? Now, just to, so, the article was on the town ballot. It's going to go before town meeting. So, and this vote is not to, it's on there, so
Yeah.
no matter what we do, it's.
Exactly.
you-
No,
you'll
I
be able to-
understand.
Okay, I
I
just want to make sure you
understand.
understood the context.
I just want to kind of clarify.
And your, I'm sorry, your name and address.
My name is Janine Caro, 103 High Range Road. Just want to kind of clarify a couple of things. When the call firefighters do come in to cover for an event, they are only at this point receiving $11.50 an hour. And that's all they get for the time that they are there, $11.50 an hour. So when you consider the price tag for an full-time firefighter coming in on overtime, I think there is a substantial savings there by having a call firefighter come in and work a scene. Call firefighters are completely trained firefighters. They go through training. They're completely qualified to be on the job and working with the crews. When you talk about not disbanding the group and becoming volunteers, they're only one part of the call firefighter budget. The other part of the call firefighter budget is the car seat program, is the Londonderry Child Passenger Safety Program. The funding that the Londonderry Child Passenger Safety Program receives from the town is the costs associated with maintaining the vehicles that are in the program. We have a van, which was donated to the program several years ago, which was approved by the council and accepted. And we also have a trailer that houses all of our materials. Again, I believe that trailer was donated, and so the monies for the registration for those vehicles and the maintenance of those vehicles also comes from this part of the budget. So if this part of the budget goes away, our program goes away.
Dave, can I ask a clarifying question? Is that a separate line item in the budget, any equipment like that, or to register the van and so forth, or is that covered under a different part?
Each department usually covers those expenses from one of their line items. I'm not quite sure which line item it is from the fire department.
But is it in the call firefighter line item, or is that only for salaries and benefits?
I believe, Chief, can you help me out with the breakdown, the call firefighter budget in the past, please?
The call firefighter budget is broken down into, basically, it's a lump sum that used for the operation. That includes their protective equipment, the training monies. Not only do they, because of the training every month, they get a monthly at the $11.50 an hour. They get their training plus any of the callback that comes through them. Plus, if they're doing the car seat safety, they get compensated for doing that program as well out of that funding.
But is it is the budget line item that this warrant article is looking to address, is that cover all those other things, or is it only to cover the $11.50 an hour for the?
It covers all of their equipment, their training time, and their callback time.
And the registration of the van?
The registration of the van we take is their government plates, so that I don't believe there's anything other than the insurance coverage that the town
Those are
accepts.
probably covered. So
Yeah,
the vehicles-
our maintenance budget covers the maintenance of the vehicles.
Okay.
They're included as the fire department vehicle maintenance.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get some clarification on that.
Well, I'm glad that was clarified, because that's not how I understood it. I was under the impression that those costs came out of that budget. There isn't a line item for the child passenger safety program. That I do know, because we had to be compensated for a car seat that we donated to the school district. And the school district sent the check over for the car seat. And it wasn't able to be deposited because it isn't a line item for a child passenger safety program. That is, the program itself is self-sufficient. We do get all the monies for the car seats through grants and donations. But we just want true clarification that the program would still be able to run and still be able to be, the van and the trailer would still be able to be funded if this was not passed. Again, you get a lot of value for that penny on your dollar from these men. These men and women are extremely dedicated people who've worked very hard for the past 16-plus years, and it would be sad to see them have to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public that wish to speak on Article number 12?
Ken Gadudi, 26 South Road. Just a couple of questions. One is with regards to the bridging the gap of using volunteer firemen. I know they've done it in the past, and I'm assuming, and I guess my question for the chief is, will this help address, I've read something in the Londonderry Times that there's been instances where we're relying too much on Derry for on-call stuff. Will the ability to use more volunteer help to kind of bridge that gap, or are they using more of Derry's equipment more so than the manpower? Because I know volunteer firemen, you know, that's how you guys, all you guys trained, I'm sure, as volunteer firemen, that's how it went, you know, that's how you do your training a lot of times.
The call department doesn't affect the normal mutual aid calls that come in on a regular basis.
Okay.
They're supplemental. Again, you can, if everybody responds, the less you need at that point. It becomes a numbers game. So in other words, if we get enough people there, whether it's full-time people or in this case, if they return to being volunteers, the less that's needed to be called from outside of that point. But again, in the initial call, we don't know who's coming at, you know, who's available at that time till they muster and get there. So mutual aid is called frequently before we know how many people are actually going to show up.
Okay, so right now, the call goes out and whether Derry shows up and a bunch of volunteer, that's not,
Or a bunch of full-time.
okay.
You know, we have 10 personnel on duty. They'll be going. If the call exceeds that, mutual aid comes, as well as the call fire department.
Okay. And can I just ask one question with regards to Article 11, with regards to the protective clothes, because you had brought up protective equipment again in something you said. I'm just wondering how much is protective equipment for a firefighter, and what is it? I mean, besides the mask?
It's the coat, boots, pants, suspenders, hood, helmet, gloves, the SCBA mask, and regulator. It's about $3,800 to outfit.
To outfit one person?
To outfit one person, yeah.
Okay. Just with regards to that, I mean, I do carpentry, and there's electricians and plumbers and everything else out there. I know I have to buy my own tool belt, you know, I have to buy my own, you know, there's certain things, and I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, you guys certainly work hard and, you know, go into stuff that we don't understand, but as well, we do the same thing. And I just want to, sometimes when it's your own thing, you treat it better than if it's somebody else that has to buy it. If it breaks, you don't go, I got to get another one. And I'm not saying that you guys are like that. I know you guys clean your trucks probably more than anybody in town. You guys certainly take care of your equipment, and I do appreciate that. But I just wanted to know if that could be brought up as something that can be compensated, maybe not 100%, but is there any way that we could look at that? And just wanted to throw that out there. I don't expect an answer from you at this point, but just being part of the public, I appreciate your time, and I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Questions or comments regarding Article 12? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the council. So, once again, council, we'll be looking for a motion to support the article as it is written.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of Article 12 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
All those in favor of supporting Article 12 as written signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? And the chair votes negative, and it fails. It's one supporting, 4 against, and no abstentions. Okay, and with that, I will turn it over to the Budget Committee.
Do I have a motion to support that from the Budget Committee?
So moved.
John, do I have a second? Lisa? Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? Hearing none. And the chair votes in the negative, so it would be 2-5-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I apologize for being late, but I just did have one question for Dave before we get off of fire, and it's on Article 5, and I promise to be quick if you would indulge me. Dave, I'm sorry I missed this. You probably covered it. What was decided on the fire inspector? Were we moving them to the building department, leaving them where they were? And I apologize for being repetitive.
The budget still calls for that to be transferred. The chief and I are having ongoing discussions regarding the best method for meeting those responsibilities and avoiding duplications of efforts. So currently, in the budget, it calls for a transfer to the building department.
But you and the chief may make a different decision and leave the fire inspector there if you deem that to be the right thing to do.
That's possible.
For the departments.
That's possible.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that concludes, we've gone through all 12, at least 10 of the 12. There's no further warrant articles on the budget, so any final comments before we motion?
Mr. Chairman, I know as we conclude the public hearing, we'll probably lose a lot of the audience. I would, with your indulgence, I'd like to ask if the police chief could stay. I have a question after the public hearing.
Chief? Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing then.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and the chair votes affirmative, and our public hearing is closed. Okay, so at this point, the Budget Committee, you're welcome to stay, but I believe the remaining business is town council business, so. Do we have any further business before us? Do we need,
Sean.
okay, so, Chief? Go ahead and ask your question to the chief, Tom, and then we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
This is just as we're looking at our upcoming meeting schedule, we have 4 meetings, 3 meetings left before the before town meeting. And Chief, one of the things that I think has become a real issue and a lot of buzz around the community has been this issue of home invasions. I know that people are afraid. There's been a lot of talk in the media about it. There's been some work up at the State House about greatly increasing the punishment for home invasions when a murder is enacted. And what I would request, Mr. Chairman, is actually an agenda item asking the chief or representatives from the police department to come forward and help educate us and the public and maybe how to protect ourselves, reduce the risk of home invasion, or if they find themselves in the midst of a home invasion, how they should react to that. And from a public safety standpoint. So I would request an agenda item on this topic, and I'm thinking something in maybe the 20 to 30-minute range, depending on what the chief might come back with.
That sounds appropriate.
I think that, again, this is an area of concern, personal safety, and a lot of talk, a lot of, and maybe we could maybe provide a real public service in terms of education.
Okay. I think that would be a fantastic idea. And Dave, I kind of leave it to you to look at our schedule and see where you could slot the chief in. I know now that the warrant has been moved forward, I think our next couple meetings are fairly light, so.
Quieter.
So maybe the 14th or?
14th or the 7th of March, or whatever it might take to prepare.
So we have the 7th of February, the 14th of February, and the 7th of March.
Valentine's
Can we
Day.
take a vacation?
The 14th sounds
That was,
good.
that was the day of the Balachi murders.
Sense of efficiency and economy.
Okay, so Dave worked that with the chief?
I will.
And thank you, Chief, we appreciate your.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and the chair votes affirmative. We are adjourned. Not